way back in the day, we always had this massive list of things that we wanted to see happen in the game, right? Like we 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 always had this massive list, and I almost feel like they've checked everything off that list, right? Like we haven't
It's
had a
true.
segment in the while where we're like, okay, what is the next big feature that we want to see? We always had that segment. We've always talked about
Okay,
those things.
let's have that segment right now. Everybody, what is the
Right,
next big thing you want to see in Worm?
right. What is the next big thing that we
What
want to
should
see
they
in
work
Wurm?
on
What's the next?
next? What is it, that one thing that goes, this will make Worm amazing?
Capes. Auction house. Okay, I like that one. Map making is good. I definitely want to see that. Better creature AI. There it is. I'm on that boat. Model updates. You know, like a lot of these things are great and would be good for the game, but they
All
also
right, now
wouldn't
we
provide that thing
listed.
that's gonna
Okay, we
make
listed
the
all, like
longevity of the
everybody's
game.
listing all the things that they want to see, listing everything. Now I say, okay, here's the scenario. You are now the dev of the game. Not the dev, you're now the owner of Worm.
Owner, yeah.
And you're looking at it like, this is my game. Which one of these would you put into the game that will attract the most players?
This is really hard. You have to put yourself away from the player's perspective. So like you are no longer a player. Like you don't play this game, but you own it, and your goal is the longevity of the game and the profitability of the game. You know. So what do you change now? Workbenches for different jobs. That would be good.
I want that personally.
We've talked about that, yeah, because it would add a lot of things that you would have to do to set
Personally,
up
it just adds immersion into the game. The
immersion.
immersion that you'd
Sure.
want, and feature sets that don't exist anymore. And I don't want to get into that, but
Sipaku's bringing up the suggestion that he brought up before: crafter priest for 50% more premium price. So charge people
that'd be
to
nice.
allow to priest their main. Maybe. Farming improvement. Farming improvement.
And this is the challenge
I don't think
that
I've
a
heard
game
people ask for
like
farming
Worm
improvements
has,
before.
right? Because there's so much cool stuff that can get added to Worm, but what is it? What are the things that they should be working on versus the things that might be nice to haves?
Goblins bonding
allows...
together, making a miniature village, if left alone, becoming really strong.
Okay, who said that?
I love that idea.
Who said that?
We've hashed that idea out many times. Yeah, Zetnorking.
We planned this whole thing out. Actually, this goes along to what I wanted to talk about next. Because yes, goblins and trolls. We've
talked about this.
We've talked about this many times in the past, where we would want to see goblins or trolls have personality, get grouped together, build little villages that only they can build, which then players would have to go and raid and kill and get like cool things from. Not just items, but the ability to craft certain things, or the ability to then take certain things that would then apply to their gameplay after. Really cool.
Totally. Sounds like a lot of AI improvements, but yes, that's definitely...
This is... I watched a tiny bit, as much as I could, of the stream this morning of Retro's official stream. And the question came up, which comes up all the time, which is, and I'm hoping that I wrote this down. Somebody said, combat. Is combat being worked on? We want a new combat system, because Worm's combat system is not great. They also said, we want dungeons. Are dungeons coming into the game? And the answer to that, I can't remember exactly what Retro said, was essentially just like, no, because dungeons are a feature of other games. This game is more about freedom and the ability to create your own dungeon. And like, if you want a dungeon, just create your own dungeon, sort of thing.
I can't stand that response, because then why put rifts, right? Like,
but then the question is like, well, rifts almost seem like a dungeon. That could be determined as dungeon-like, I guess, which is, it's not a dungeon, but it is a combat feature.
If they're willing to put in rifts, then they shouldn't shut down an idea that's similar to that by saying, we would never put in anything like that into this game.
Sorbic Jackal was mentioned as well. They said, okay, Jackal is, I mean, it doesn't help new players, but they could do that again, I guess.
Rifts are to bring moon medals to PvE servers, yes, but they're also there to like provide an engaging activity that's rewarding and give materials. Lots of different materials come from rifts and lots of items. They just need to add more of that.
Let's break down why did that player say, are we putting like, what we want dungeons, like, are dungeons coming into the game? Why would they even say that? Because what does a dungeon do for that player? Yeah, like at all. Like, what does it do?
It gives them something to do.
Gives them something to do.
Something to work towards.
Gives them something to work towards, let's say. Okay. So it gives them something to work towards, and it gives them something to do,
beef up my
or fun thing to do,
so that I can go and take on that goblin village that's over there, because they drop a cool looking hat that I really want.
So one reason why they wouldn't want dungeons. So when Retro heard dungeons, in his mind he was thinking mines. Right. So, and one reason why you wouldn't want to do that is because then you're basically restricting that area so that people cannot mine in that place. So you're basically saying, come to our game, everything is moldable, you can do anything, and then they come in and there's like a game mechanic stopping players because an NPC dungeon is there.
But that's the same will go for rifts. I can't deed there right now because there's a rift happening right now.
But I think they were okay with that because it's temporary. Okay. Now,
so like the dungeons can be temporary. They can spawn in.
So that's why. Yeah, that's why the whole idea of like goblins or goblin camps, building that, and troll camps is exactly what this game needs.
Typical, you say the problem you see with the goblin village idea is a lack of land for it, but the same argument would go for rifts, right? Like,
right. You just make it so that they're small, not that
thanks
big.
Thanks for the bits, Griffo. Remove all the seals. Remove. Zorbic says they could have portal spawns that could teleport you to dungeon, and once it's complete, the portal goes away. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that idea, only because it breaks immersion a little bit.
Yeah, I would say
it's like instancing. It's not.
Okay, Wurm is not a game where traditional dungeons or its intended goal would fit into the world of Wurm. Right? Because the original concept of dungeons is that you go in there, it's a combat kind of progression where it's designed to take out mobs, eventually the good dungeons lead to, let's say, a boss. You kill it, and the goal is to come out of it with items that you didn't have before. Materials.
Resources. Yeah. Typical, you were saying.
That's not how Wurm works.
The problem I see with your Goblin Village idea is the lack of... Oh, wait. Harmony and Melody is mostly full of deeds. I don't think it's actually full of deeds. I think it's just that the coast is full of deeds.
That's
Right.
true.
I knew if I got that right before.
Now, they wouldn't need that much space. Like, I mean, look at where we are now. We're like, oh, it's
Right.
full of deeds, but
It could be right over there.
it could be right over there. And it doesn't have to be big. Like, it could be tiny. But the way that
one by one
Wurm
hut.
should work is that you should see these groups going through the way that I'd like to see it work is that you could see these groups of goblins and stuff. And let's say they're grouped up in the sense that if you wanted to take on one, you could, but you would have to take on the other ones too. So it wouldn't be something that you would just go in and start killing. And then you would actually watch them building their place, this little tiny little place, not big.
Mm-hmm.
And then
a couple 1 by 1 huts and things like that.
And at any time, any players can come in and kill them if they want to in the middle of them doing it. That's possible.
Yep.
And if they don't, and they end up like building this little mini place, then the player could have to go into there and group up and take it out. Not just take it out, but take out the land as well. Make it really easy to destroy. Not hard. Not like the rest of the Wurm.
Sipiku says, why not let people make dungeons and play the beasts inside them and gain rewards based on the dungeon clearer's deaths? So you take on the role of that lava fiend and you go around trying to kill all the newbies that are coming. That's funny.
Yeah, that's a completely different type of gameplay. That's true.
Yeah.
Sipiku, you would play 5 months premium monthly to be able to play as a metal vein and taunt the poor souls.
Sod trying
to tunnel through me in local chat. Oh man. Anyway, so could it coexist on one piece of land? It could. You could have little mini areas, not that many, that could do that. So that's one thing that I think would be pretty cool. And of course, Baron Tor, you're saying you'd want a separate island that has that sort of thing. That would be interesting too. But remember, now you're basically creating a brand new game that we can then go to and
Right.
And play on.
I don't want to make it integrated into the current game that we have.
Again, they did many times.
Jackal,
like Challenge, and like Epic, where they decided, let's create essentially a brand new way of playing and see what people think. Could they do that then where it's like something where you just sail over with your main character? They could. It's just something they haven't done, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Would it help? Would people like it? Because now you have to stop. The problem with all of those other things, and the problem with this one, is that they would have to stop what they're doing and then go do that.
Mm.
So essentially, you're not saying we're gonna make this new gameplay for the players. You're essentially trying to make this gameplay for different kinds of players in hopes that you attract them to the game to do it, because you want both areas to be populated with players playing. That would essentially be the goal.